Recubbed, a Lionkingview fanfic by Lionkingview. Chapter 14. The royal couple from the Tree of Life shot each other a bemused glance before addressing Simba. Sahazi spoke first. While I would like to say that I already knew, I must confess that I didn't have a clue up until my wife pointed it out to me, he said humbly. Ananda showed a bit less restraint and took a few steps forward to declare with pride, I was 90% sure. You don't forget a face that lies with such ease, she said with a smile. I don't quite understand, responded Simba. I think I might know what she's on about, pondered Nala. Ananda grinned. A few years ago, when I first visited the Pride Lands as a teenager, I temporarily helped babysit the tribe's cubs for a few hours, and there was one cub who had a tendency to shamelessly lie whenever he thought that the rules didn't apply to him, Ananda explained. Oh no, Simba rolled his eyes, knowing exactly where this anecdote was going. The cub had a tendency, Ananda went on, to justify everything by saying that he was the future king. Well, too bad that the current king at the time had made it abundantly clear that his son was not to be treated any differently from any other cubs. Although that didn't stop the cub from trying to lie himself out of every situation. Guess the cub's name? Ananda asked rhetorically. I rather not, Simba mumbled in embarrassment. Oh, but Prince Simba was so vehement about what he supposedly was allowed to do. Well, that was until either his mum or dad actually showed up. Then he would be all shy and docile, finished Ananda, still sporting the same smile. Anyway, that's why I asked all these questions. King Simba, you still lie like a pro, although you managed to hide it better. That doesn't mean, however, that certain inflections have completely disappeared, and certain facial tics are still as present as ever, Ananda explained, like Sherlock Holmes. Still, I wasn't completely sure, but before I could use my most foolproof method, you already decided to confess on your own, Ananda finished. What would that foolproof method have been? Simba asked, genuinely curious. Ironically, it's something that isn't there, instead of, something that is, Ananda answered. Simba thought about this for a few seconds before groaning and yet again rolling his eyes. My mane, he concluded. Bingo, said Ananda. Makes sense, remarked Nala jokingly and gave Simba a playful lick. I guess so. Queen Ananda, I must admit you're a very observant regent, complimented Simba. Thank you. From what I've seen of the Pride Lands thus far, I can easily say that you, King Simba, are a responsible regent, complimented Ananda back. Thanks, responded Simba. I hope you don't mind us asking, but how exactly did you and your wife end up like this? Asked Ananda. And so Simba told the events of the last few days to the delegation with the occasional added bit of information from Sarabi. Kiara disappeared for a short period to tell the Lion Guard that their services weren't needed here anymore. Kiara was back just as Simba finished. And so, I decided to come clean with you two. He paused. And then he continued. Looking back, this entire ordeal helped me to come to terms with my past just a bit more. I'm far from completely getting over it, but sometimes it's the small steps that in hindsight will feel like leaps. Who I was all those years ago, and who I am today, feel like two totally different people at first, but the more I really think about it, the more I realize that I still have far more things in common with my past self than I have differences. This face, Simba said as he walked to a small puddle on the side of the path and looked into it. This face brings back so many innocent memories, but they always come hand in hand with a flood of what ifs and whys. But today, for the first time since I ran away from the Pride Lands all these years ago, I can manage to look at that face and not see a disappointment that time washed away, but rather a small cub who never should have been as hard on himself as he was. My past, actually everyone's past, is never a perfect harmonious chain of events. We will stumble, we will fall, we will be amazed, and we will be traumatized. But the truly important part is that we are here right now. We made it, Simba said and looked at Nala. Despite growing up under a dictatorship, then he turned to Sarabi, or having to live through your husband's and son's death at the same time, and later doing your best at keeping your head held high in the face of complete and utter indignity. Simba felt tears rolling down his face as he kept giving his speech. Seeking out hope, where no one would suspect anything but dust and death, and finding a thick-headed know-it-all of a lion, who so far removed from it all, had only a stern talking from his future wife, an apparition from his dead dad, and a good hit on the head from a monkey could get him to do what needed to be done. But that's not all, since winning was actually kind of easy, but governing is harder. Not to forget the immensely exhausting but rewarding endurance test of raising children. Thank the elders I had the pride behind me that had already gone through hell and back to help me. After all that, and then being turned back into a cub, really gave me perspective. Of course I didn't understand back then. How could I have? Simba said to his reflection. Well, this is an apology to my past self for all the self-hate I made myself endure. But it is also a thank you, Simba said as he looked up from the puddle, to all those who've been by my side, Simba said as he looked at Nala and Sarabi, and also those who seem to be understanding of a truly odd situation, he added with a chuckle, as he wiped his tears away and looked at Sahazi and Ananda. Kiara, I want to thank you and Kion, as well as the Lion Guard, later for what you've done. It's a team effort, and that should not be understated, he quickly added as he addressed his daughter. A moment of silence passed after Kiara had nodded. That was quite a speech, remarked Sahazi. Let's hope you are as good of a diplomat as you are a public speaker, he jested. You want to talk about political relations right now? Asked Simba, a bit surprised. Certainly. The faster we get to it, the faster we will be done with it. And we can get back to exchanging anecdotes, Sahazi reasoned with a smile. Maybe we should find a more grass-filled terrain, though. This place is a bit too sandy for my taste. I don't really like sand, Sahazi added. Who can blame you? Sand is rough and coarse, and it gets everywhere, remarked Nala. Exactly, said Sahazi. Okay, I know a good place, declared Simba and began leading the group. I must say, from what I heard thus far, your son sounds like a dream of a son-in-law, declared Ananda offhandedly to Simba as the group made their way towards the green plains in the distance. A few hours later, the political talks were finished and the festivities afterwards had died down. Simba and Nala had already given their thanks to the Lion Guard and were now talking to Kiara and Kion. You two deserve all the praise we as parents can shower you with. You managed this odd situation during the last few days with bravado, said Nala. You even managed to keep me out of harm's way, remarked Simba. An impressive task, given that Zazu only managed to do that about 50% of the time, Simba chuckled. You two have shown us that you truly are growing up. You are far more responsible than we, or probably more realistically, I had realized, Simba went on. Thanks, Dad, came an answer from both Kion and Kiara. I will leave you to your space when you need it, to the best of my ability, he finished. Just know that we will always love you two, no matter what, said Nala. No matter what, echoed Simba. And then Nala and Simba embraced their children in a hug. It was a less suffocating hug than usual, due to Simba still missing his old lion strength, but the parental love it emanated was undeniable. Epilogue. A few years later, in the fading hours of a wedding celebration. Okay, Dad, your turn. Truth or dare? Asked Kiara as she leaned against Kovu. Truth. I'm too lazy and full from the banquet to get up now, said Simba, who was lying next to Nala. Kiara thought for a few seconds and then said, What is your honest and unhinged opinion of Kovu? Kiara asked. Simba snort-laughed and replied, He is an upstanding young lion with a good sense of style. He's also a bit of a douchebag, but mostly the former, he chuckled. A douchebag, huh? Kovu asked in bemusement. I could have sworn that you once called me, and I quote, super cool, he said with a cheeky grin. When would I have ever said that? Asked Simba in bewilderment. You know, back then when you were smaller than me for like a few days, answered Kovu in amusement. Wait, did I? Asked Simba in genuine confusion. Like it or not, Dad, you did, agreed Kiara. Get nothing more to say to your cool new son-in-law? Asked Kovu cockily. I think I'll go with dare for the next round, responded Simba with a mock pout. The group had a healthy laugh about that remark, as in the far distance the sun prepared to chase away the night for yet another day. Another day in the circle of life. The end. And that was Recubbed, a Liongut fanfic, read and written by Lionkingview. Thank you for watching and listening.